There's gotta be something I can present. Trying to get every time Owie mentions a donut. Yeah, that might kill me by the end of the game. I should do it as a big-ass 24-hour stream on Saturday. Or until I've passed out from alcohol poisoning on Saturday. Wait. Oh, I figured it out. I figured out what the thing is. I think hope and despair might kill you. I think in the first game, I'll be okay for a while on the hope and despair thing. Now, if we were talking the second game, I wouldn't make it through chapter 1. What with Nagito in the first chapter, then shit would, yeah, I'd be dead. In fact, I don't think I could play any chapter other than maybe chapter like 5. And even that's iffy. In the second game without having hope and despair kill me. Hell, I think there's a couple of lines alone in the first game, or in the second game in chapter 1 that will kill me with that rule. Okay, so it's... There we go, I did it. I knew it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction. What? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday. Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us, instead of always having to go to these theatrics. What part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report? I mean, like, all of this. I think it's this part here. I don't see what's so strange about that. That's because the drawing stinks. Mr. Wright, how could you? I tried my hardest. The act of making an innocent girl cry should warrant the death penalty. I guess he means I shouldn't shift the blame to others. Yes, well, so long as the defense has learned its lesson. I'd better take him to look at that autopsy report in this picture. Okay, so I'm going to explain what I'm trying to point out, and maybe somebody can help me figure out what the fuck it is. The autopsy report says that the dude who was stabbed in the back. And in the picture, he's facing forwards. Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out the contradiction for us. This is the one thing I don't like about this game. It suffers from Danganronpa syndrome, where it asks really vague questions and then expects you to be incredibly specific with the answer in the exact way it wants you to, rather than letting you actually tell what the reality of the situation is. And I understand why. It's just the difficulty of the medium, but I have no idea why this is the case, but apparently this is, yeah, maybe it's the weapon. It is. The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken. What the fuck? No, you can't. It's a stick. Even I don't have to look closely to see that, Mr. Wright.
But Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken too.
If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body.
It was the conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer.
I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma.
And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem?
It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken. Ah! What's the meaning of this?
Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand.
Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there. That's right, but what does this mean?
The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken.
That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly.
But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency.
Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already about a little something called falsified evidence?
You're treading on thin ice, Wright. I swear to God, when we get home, I'm gonna tie you up and beat your ass with a riding crop for that one.
By the way, in my headcanon, these two are gay. And apparently they're into some weird stuff. This just came up. All I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. Knife. Forged. You can't deny the possibility. I'm sure it's not only your headcanon. Yeah, I'm pretty sure many people, many people share that headcanon. It's better than shipping Phoenix with every single underaged assistant he's had. So, I mean, my options are kind of limited here.
No.
Ah. Order, order, order. Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted? Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. Sound familiar? After receiving the King of Prosecutors award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story there is a lie.
I'm not lying. The man really was holding up a broken knife.
If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife.
What are the chances of there being two broken knives? Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. Could there have been one?
there is another one. If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error.
Mr. Wright.
In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife. I assume, then, that you have some information about this other broken knife? If so, please feel free to enlighten us. The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon.
I have been wanting to talk about this forever.
The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Right here inside this picture. This is a picture.
This is a picture of the award ceremony. Ah!
What is it, Mr. Edgeworth?
It's the broken murder weapon.
Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding? Hey, Retro, welcome to the stream.
That's a broken knife.
As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award. Order, order, order! Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation.
But that can't be.
Oh? And why not, Mr. Edgeworth?
Because if the King of Prosecutors award knife was the murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed.
What do you mean?
I mean, this man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall.
Alright, sounds good, Retro. Thank you for the host, by the way. I wasn't able to read any of that because it skipped through it. Hate it when it does that. But the prosecutor was the one who actually died. That's true.
What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions.
Wait, I remember now. I remember everything.
Witness?
Mr. Edgeworth,
What is it?
could you show me your evidence list again, please?
His list? The one with that picture scribbled on the back?
I knew it. This picture. I'm the one who drew it.
What?
You drew that?
That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me.
And then I went in deep inside her to get the truth out. God damn it. Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony. Would you please tell us what you've recalled, Miss Skye?
Yes, Your Honor.
First the knife mix-up and now the blue badger? This should be interesting. What if it's not the blue badger? What if it's the jar? They're kind of shaped the same.
When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed toward both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Just then there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow.
This is certainly most unusual. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Try impossible. The chief of detectives hadn't even designed him until this year.
That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago. Yes, well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination.
Stop. Please. Don't pursue this any further.
Lana. What's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair.
But you can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that?
Chief Prosecutor Sky, we've already come this far. It's too late to turn back.
Silence! The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant. It seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. Press on both these statements first. Are you sure about this?
Of course. See? I even drew a picture of him here.
But it was the chief of detectives who thought up this hideous beast. And that was just this year. The blue badger didn't exist 2 years ago. This is all quite verifiable.
I know it sounds strange. I was surprised too when I saw him at the police department. I had this nagging feeling that I'd seen him before somewhere. Now I finally remember.
Oh, brother, just when you thought that thing had caused enough commotion. Tell us, where in the room did you see him dancing? There we go, we'll press on this statement too. His shadow? So you mean you didn't actually see his face with its winning smile and all?
That's right, but I still remember it. He had 3 creepy horns.
You didn't see the blue badger, it was a squid boy.
This is pointless. That thing couldn't have possibly existed 2 years ago. The witness must be mistaken.
That may well be. But what's important is what caused her to think she saw what she did.
Oh, and I suppose you have an explanation? If so, then by all means, please tell us what the shadow really was.
What was it Emma saw when the lightning flashed? Who is this blue badger really? I just might know. Blue badger hadn't even been dreamt up when Emma drew this picture, yet she's certain she saw its shadow. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the defense's belief that on that fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the blue badger. Something that is now sitting in this very room.
Mr. Wright!
In this room? Very well, Mr. Wright. What is it that the witness saw in that instant? Please show us this mysterious blue badger look-alike.
It's this. It's gotta be.
The mysterious blue badger was in fact this. But that's... what exactly is that? I believe it's some sort of jar.
But Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the blue badger.
Indeed it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint? Our viewpoint? I've got to show them the correct angle to look at this from. What? I'm really bad at rotating this thing because it rotates at really awkward angles. Like that, I guess. This isn't right. I've got to make it look more like the Badger.
Allow me to remind the defense this case hinges on the witness's drawing. If Mr. Wright can't match the shape the witness drew, we cannot accept his claim.
I've got to find just the right angle. Maybe I should rotate it vertically a bit more or horizontally.
Come on, Mr. Wright, you can do it.
Okay. That was an accident. Shit. I don't think it'll hurt me, though. It doesn't appear to be hurting me, so that's a plus. That, I guess it's a little better. I don't know. There. Well, is this a miracle or what? No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the Blue Badger. Order! Order! The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious Blue Badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this.
Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point?
What do you mean? That twist is rather jarring.
So that badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything.
I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything.
Indeed. Very well then. Please tell us. What's different now that we know the witness saw the jar?
Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar.
At a very specific angle, I might add, Mr. Wright.
Yes, well, knowing this, where could she have seen this jar? Where? The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant.
But the body was found lying near Lana Sky's desk. The witness testified so herself.
Yes, and it is these two facts that reveal what actually transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room in Chief Gant's office.
Are you implying the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Sky's office?
Yes.
Why would he do that? There's no reason.
Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason. Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright? I don't have a fucking clue. I finally figured it out. So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now tell me, what could have sent the jar flying? That would have to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit?
Ah!
The suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous-looking sword. Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall, wielding the King of Prosecutors trophy.
No. Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking.
Yes. Oh, it is V3 Chapter 1. There is another possibility of what actually transpired in that room. Another possibility? Of course, the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless. I don't know if I can go through with this. Get in the fucking robot, Shuichi. Mr. Wright, what's the matter?
If events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma Scott knocked away was actually Prosecutor Neil Marshall,
You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me? No!
And she's out cold again.
I never imagined a testimony would lead to this.
So it was the victim, the witness, who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented. It's actually kind of like literally every case of this whole game. Not really what I would say unprecedented.
What? What are you saying?
I'm sorry, Ms. Sky, but given the circumstances...
Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her?
And that, right there, is why this whole thing is happening. Gant knows the truth, and Gant has been holding it over Lana's head for 2 years, and using it to manipulate her.
Imagine that coming from you. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out about what Emma did, wasn't it?
I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall?
Evidence? I have all the evidence I need.